Good morning. How's everybody doing? We're switching it up today. How do I put this? We're going in a different direction. So, this morning I want to talk to you on how my philosophy of free will fits into being a dad. Being a dad is one of my favorite subjects, and I've waited to touch on it and talk about it because I felt like you needed to see the philosophy in motion, as it were. Free will is a living, growing, evolving thing at all times. The more options, the more free will. That's how I look at it. So, how do you raise kids? Well, this isn't going to be a story telling you what you're doing wrong. And I don't have no time to tell you that your version of love is wrong. Because I don't know if it's wrong. It could be better than mine. It's the point of this page. I'm going to share mine and you share yours. If we have similarities, maybe I'm on track. I'm doing something right. As the point of this video is to make sure I'm not doing wrong. You can tell me how to parent my kids. I will take it into consideration. Even if you don't take a word that I say as truth. And that's because that unconditional love. I've had a lot of people tell me a lot of things, and I've done a lot of sidetracking myself, making sure that either they were right or wrong. So here we go. First off, I think it's a privilege to have kids. I think there's nothing that they bring to your life that's a negative at all. Only your ego can make it a negative. I just want to start there. I want to start by being an advocate for children and speaking from an abused child's point of view, in telling you you got to pay more attention. It's really that simple. I used to think that kids needed a protector, just an evil world, got to protect the kids. This is their world that I'm preparing them for. Protecting them from it probably serves no purpose. And that's a hard truth. When you just want to destroy the things that are affecting your child negatively, it doesn't work. Let me explain it to you from a guy that tried to just protect his children. It doesn't work. You can't get angry. You can't get defensive. The courts will bury you and take your kids from you. No matter what you do. So it's just not the way. So how do you deal with kids? I'm just going to tell you about my view of it. I was a bad kid. I did a lot of bad shit. I made a lot of bad decisions. I did a lot of horrendous things. Nothing I'm like, I should just be shot over. I was a bad kid. Look at the felonies I committed as an adult. The felonies I committed as a kid were nothing, right? I've been to federal prison for bombs. But it's because I didn't have the positive attention that I needed to stay focused on just enjoying life, playing army men, building forts, trying to figure out why I think girls are cute, childhood things. And instead, we expose our children to fucking shit. Our days are bad. We're cussing. We're screaming. We don't have any time. We're tired. Kids don't give a fuck about your words. Kids give a fuck about how you make them feel. And if you can make a child feel safe, just be a child. Just enjoy being a child. You go, da 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 da. Listen, you wish you could still be a child. You wish you had people that loved you and took care of you and paid your bills. You do wish that. Especially if you never got that as a child. Just because I turned out good doesn't mean that most people without a mom and dad did, because there's psychological consequences and ripples of that being part of your origin story. It makes it a lot more raw. So I got this big list of what I probably shouldn't do to be a dad. And that works. But it was finding the things to replace my mindset of what I thought a dad was that was difficult. It was super difficult for me to change my mindset. And I think I got some help. So let's get into it. And to do this, I'm going to tell a little bit of the story. Don't feel bad for me. It's nothing compared to what I would go through for my kids. Period. Doesn't matter. The story starts a long time ago when my daughter was born. Long time ago. She's 10 now. See, I had my first child with a married woman. When I met her, she's already cheating on her husband. And I didn't want anything to do with her. It took her months of pursuing me. For being the dog that I was, I ended up sleeping with her. She left her husband. What a great origin story, right? And then she left me and told me because of her religious views, she was going to go back to her husband and she was going to be a family, and she made a mistake. So really, she's been fucking me and her husband the entire time together, plus whoever else. And that was it. And like, that was going to be the end of it. And then she calls me, tells me she's pregnant. Then it was an accident. Now she's coming back. There's a lot more to it. I could share pain all morning. The way it kept going, the things that have happened. I could show you all kinds of things that helped me grow as a human being. I could show you that. That's not the point. The point is the good things. It's to help. My daughter's probably about 18 months old. She was starting to not be a baby, starting to be an itty bitty baby girl, you know? And I remember I was just sitting there getting stoned. And I suddenly thought about the fact that my daughter was going to be a woman someday. And men like me were going to try to use her. Because that's how it always, not in a negative way, but yeah, we can hook up, but we're not going to date because, like, you're a junkie and I'm a junkie. It's pretty much textbook relationship status for me. But all of a sudden, I got this little girl, and she's going to be a woman someday. It freaked me out. Oh, it freaked me out. It made me hate an entire part of myself that I was completely okay with. I never considered. I'm not mean to women. I don't treat them badly. All the women that I hook up with are loose, so like, we're living loose. Who cares? I don't judge people. I have hypersexuality based on past trauma, so it's all good for me until it wasn't. Until I realized that my son, a little bit later, would be like me. But the problem that I had in that moment before my son was born is my daughter was going to want to grow up to marry somebody like me. That's what statistics say of psychology. And it doesn't matter what you say, they're gonna copy your actions. You lead by example, whether or not you want them to understand. They understand by you doing. I hated myself, and I thought about all the karma I'd probably incurred for breaking women's hearts, for never being serious, for never wanting to commit, for never. And that's what I was going to teach my daughter love was. I was going to teach her that relationships are just fleeting and love isn't real and you shouldn't respect yourself. That was the beginning of the change for me. That day, that moment, that realization, that 1 second in time that's burned in my memory. I need to fix this. So I started working on it. Oh, it was rough. Get lonely, hook up with some fast chick, go back to being alone. So then I took it further. I started hanging out with other parents. I started hanging out with people that had kids because I got kids. So now we're doing kid activities with the parents all the way around, and the kids in the middle, and they're doing their things, you know? I met some very interesting parents. I met some terrible fucking parents that only under certain circumstances is the reason I didn't beat them within an inch of their life. Some parents shouldn't have kids. And I met other parents. I met this guy. I'm not going to give him a shout out. He didn't put anything positive in my life except this. And this is really important. How to talk to kids. This man was a genius. Genius. I've never seen. In fact, I adopted his style immediately to fit my own style of parenting. But here's what he would do. All these kids, right? Crazy, crazy life. But he would talk to them with respect. No, ma'am. No, sir. Even when they're doing something wrong. No, sir, we're not going to do it like that. We're going to go and do this right over here. No room for argument. No room to feel like they're getting yelled at. Just a very simple, no, we're not doing this and we're going to go do this over here. And that's how it is. No, sir. No, ma'am. No, ma'am. Do you want to go and sit down in timeout? Do you need to think about it? There's no ego involved in that interaction. There was no putting anybody above anyone. Everyone was equal. And I've heard many different ways on how to parent, but I've never heard of treating your kids like equals that just need to learn so they have the same knowledge as you. But they're already amazing humans. They're already equal to me the second they're born. They're not below me or beneath me or responsibility. They're just as good as me, and they need some input so they can continue the mission. It blew my mind. It blew my mind. It put children in their own category in my head of the level of respect. This idea gets unlimited love and instant respect. You could say I've used that as the basis to like further how I feel about other people and situations in the world and a whole bunch of things. But it started with my kids. It started with my daughter. So that was the new thing. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. No matter what. No matter what. Another mom, on the other hand, discipline, time limits, time rules, punishments, anger, resentment. She's building all of it herself, her and her husband. So, like, that guy, without even knowing it, helped me create a situation that'll never be broken. Real love. I love my kids to death. And they love me too. And it's weird because they act two separate ways. I've clearly seen it over the years now. Is treating them like they're equal and they just need to be taught things and giving them grace when they don't understand or they're having a hard time learning or anything. Just, I get it. Let's work on it. They react differently to me than they do to their mom and stepdad. Completely. They're loud and defiant and argutive and lying and stealing. There's a whole bunch of negative things my kids exhibit as personality traits based on the trauma they're going through. Believe me, they're going through trauma. But when they're with me, we're honest and we're open. And when they act out, they sit on the couch and we talk about it. And they hate my lectures. Boy, do they hate my lectures, because the older they get, the more information that I can give to them. It's just a slow doling out process. I'd help them with like the curriculum of school, but they're like me. They get bored because they learned it too easy and they learned it too fast. And now what do? And we're supposed to sit here for another 6 weeks in school and I've already finished all the curriculum. What am I supposed to do now? But behavioral wise, I constantly have to remind them, you're not at home. You don't have to act that way. And it's like cold water on them. They just, and they're like, oh, sorry, Dad, my bad. I'm just so used to doing it. No, it's all right. I understand. We don't do it that way here. Nope. I didn't do anything special. I don't love my kids anymore, and you love your kids. I just started treating them like an equal that if I taught them well and I showed them the positives in life, that they may increase the positives for somebody else later in life. Long-term investments. If I love my kids, they may show love in the world later in the world, right? That was the pretty straightforward way to deal with the kids. They didn't stop acting bad. They didn't stop questioning things. I love it when they question my authority. I love it. It gives me a chance to explain why I'm making that decision, which even if they don't agree with, they now respect why I'm making the decision. They're probably ignorant, right? My kids probably pulled the fast one on me. My daughter's got me wrapped around her little finger. But regardless of how they act, the reaction to them is always, always, always love. Always. Doesn't matter, unconditional love. I stole it from you, Dad, and I broke this thing that was yours. Still love you. These are the consequences, but I still love you. It's just a thing. Even if I can't replace it and I don't have the money and I can't afford it, it was just a thing. Watching you cry isn't worth the amount of money I fucking spent on said thing. It's not worth it to me. And if you cry because you're upset, I understand and I'll hold you or I'll tell you you're wrong and let you cry. I don't It's your life. And that's the point that I realized about kids. That's not my life. It's not. I don't have the right to tell them they have to be a certain way or act a certain way or dress a certain way. My job as a parent is to give love. And that's it. They're not going to die because in love, I make sure their environment isn't going to fucking kill them. Can they scrape their knees and bang their shins and hit their head on sharp corners? Fuck yeah, they can. You know what happens? This has happened a couple times. My kids bring me something. Dad, this is broken. Oh, shitty. Throw it in the garbage can. You know what happens? They get it out of the garbage can. They fix it themselves. And then you know what I do once they fix it themselves? Oh my God, I could have never done that. You must be so proud of yourself. How did you do that? Dirty psychological trick to make them believe in themselves. Because the thing is, I ain't going to coddle my kids. I don't want them to be weak emotionally. I want them to understand when someone's being mean that it's someone being mean and it's not their fault and it's not their problem. And since they're not acting that way, that person must be reacting out of pain and hurt. They're angry, that means they're sad. Teaching my kids is just the greatest thing in my life. Helping them understand that we're only responsible for our reactions to things. How things affect us, bad things are going to happen, good things are going to happen. All life's going to happen. But if it isn't your fault, why would you be sad? Why wouldn't you take that as a lesson? Talking to my kids and giving them time is the only thing I can give them that they care about. They don't care about money. They don't care about clothes. They don't care, not yet. And when they care about fashion, I will be the first person to get right up in their shit about, listen, let me tell you who else thinks that fashion's cool. Let me show you where that fashion comes from. Let me show you the ideas that led to that fashion being in fashion. Let me show you the people and how terrible they are that believe that this is the new cool thing. I'm teaching my kids how to see the world with love as it is, not trying to get them to pretend that something's other than it is. They deserve respect and love from the second they're here, and I will show them that they are worthy of that and they deserve that because they exist, not because they're my kids, not because of anything they've ever said or done, because they exist. They matter that much. You know what would happen if everybody acted like this and treated their kids like this? In like 4 generations, the whole world would change. Such a simple thing. Just love your kids. Be there for your kids. Take care of your fucking kids the best you can. Me, I gotten pushed out of their life. I'm an every other weekend dad, and right now I'm doing more custody battles. And there's just a bunch of stuff going on that I have to deal with that isn't easy. And I take every step knowing at the end of the road is me and my kids, no matter how long it takes. She can keep me in probate and arguing with me and getting lawyers until they turn 18, but the second they turn 18, I'm never going to be able to get rid of my kids. They're going to live with me and travel with me and everything. I already know until they find somebody else that becomes part of the gypsy clan. Like, I'm a gypsy. I travel, I move. I don't even remotely care in one way, shape, or form about owning a house. I should, I guess. It's not like you take it with me when I die. It's not like the first year I didn't pay taxes on it, they just take it from me anyway. But teaching my kids love. You're welcome. I don't know what else to say. You're welcome. All I got to say is you're welcome. Because my kids aren't going to be shitty adults. My kids are going to care about things outside of themselves and people outside of themselves. I've never treated money as important in their lives ever. I never had much, but I don't treat it just because, like, if I cared about money, if I really honestly just like buckled down, I know like 10 different ways to make really good money. Most of them I can't do anymore because of my health. I'm working on it. Kids need love. That's it. It's my whole philosophy on the free will. You choose to do bad or you choose to do good. You're choosing. And I'm choosing to give my kids an example of unconditional love that they can use to find somebody else with unconditional love. If this is how I am and my son emulates me, he's going to want a woman that gives him peace of mind. Or maybe man, I don't know. I don't care. But both of my kids are going to want somebody that has that unconditional love in their heart. They've seen the difference between their mom and me. They've seen the difference in the households. They've seen They've had a unique opportunity, even though through pain, to understand life and love and the different ways to do things and how everything isn't exactly how it looks, that there's different ways. They're already understanding that there's different ways to do things in the world. I never thought about that when I was a little kid. It was my dad's way or the highway. I tested that theory, ended up on the highway. So now it's their way and I won't let them die. Now it's their way and I won't let them turn into shitty human beings. Now it's their way within reason. I don't have a lot of things figured out. I'm still constantly working on everything. Makes it fun. But this is the basis in which I raise my children at all times, without fail. I'm not screaming and cussing at them. I do not hit neither one of my kids fucking ever, even though her husband does. And I hear some of you, but listen, if you made one decision to protect your kids now, and then the next time they needed you, you weren't there, would you feel better about helping them now, or would you feel worse later not being able to help them then when it probably really mattered? That was a conclusion I came to quite a few years ago, that my kids were more important than my fears, that they were being abused or hurt, all the different things. No matter what, them being able to give me a hug is probably the most important thing I can do for them. And I had to destroy a lot of stupidity in myself to reach that conclusion. And so now I'm sitting patiently waiting on a miracle from God, as it were. Waiting on a lawyer. Need a lawyer. I finally found something where I'm not educated enough to do it all myself. And that's hard to say. The laws are just so convoluted, and like none of the laws pertaining to children are in the benefit of the child having two parents or joint custody or the male having any custody at all. And did you know in the United States, whether you believe it or not, as far as laws go, children are considered private property until they turn 18. So to get my kids back, I have to start a Fourth Amendment violation case against not only the county, but CPS, state of Oregon. I need a lawyer, and I'm going to make a lot of money off it. I'm going to use every dime to help my kids. But it's still got to get started. I could sit here and fill out paperwork all day long, but I don't understand exactly how it has to go in, so they don't make me redo it 6 times. And every time I try and I don't do it right, it's another day that a lawyer could have done it right, and I could have seen my kids again already. So now I feel like I'm up against the clock, as it were. The goal is to see my kids for Christmas, but I don't think it's going to happen this year. For reference point, my ex just took my kids. She never took me to court to do so. I checked. I went to court. She just texted me and said, I can't see my kids no more. I need to do it through a state facility and some other crazy shit without ever getting a court order to do so. She's fully violated. She's done a number of things that were illegal. She's done a number of things to go directly against the parenting plan. This is an ongoing situation. They're not defeated. Not at all. I'm winning. I just have to keep faith and stay patient and wait for that day when I have a lawyer to help me. The day I have a lawyer to help me is the last day I feel in any way, shape, or form powerless. And right now I feel powerless. I feel like I'm standing up against something It's just a gate. It's not even that it's hard. It's not even that I would lose. It's not any of those things. It's just there's this one gate, a key to be able to use law lingo to get justice in court. Just justice, just truth spoken through and it decided upon it being truth. I've only got one step left, and that's to get a lawyer so we can put all my evidence together and all the things and submit it the right way so they can't just fuck everything off on a technicality. So she can't just get a default judgment order. I'm fighting for my kids. I always fight for my kids. I'll never stop fighting for my kids. My kids should have the right to experience unconditional love from me, period. And since I've never hurt my kids, you ask yourself, well, how did you even get in this situation? Because when he first put his hands on my daughter, I called him up and told him I'd cut him up into little pieces and kill his fucking ass and bury him all over the United States. And they used that statement to go to the cops and get full custody and say I was a dangerous human being. So it's my fault that I need a lawyer, and it's my fault it's gone on this long, and it's my fault because I couldn't calm down and deal with my own reactions. I couldn't understand an ego how any man thought he was going to touch my kids because, like, I'm coming. Are you kidding me? You're gonna. And all it ever did was affect my children negatively when I reacted from that space, and so I stopped. I did the best I could to stop. I shut her all the way down until I felt like a fucking punk coward. Shut it down, and then I sat in that energy. Still sitting in that energy. It just doesn't bother me anymore. It doesn't bother me because I'm here for the long haul for my kids. I actually love my kids. It's not about me. So now I'm putting all those people in jail. And since he wants to be a fucking wants to abuse kids, cool. That'll be on his record when he hits the joint. And since she wants to lie and do perjury and all these other things, every piece of money that she owns is going to be mine. You heard it here first. I'm going to sue her for everything she's ever owned. I'm going to take all of it and give it to my children. I'm not going to keep it for me. I don't need money. My kids do. You understand? And not because I have a bunch of money, just I don't give a fuck. Fuck the United States government. Fuck the tax system that don't make no sense. Like, the government prints money and you play around and act like you need to waste your life over it. And then on top of it, the interest rate is higher than the amount of money that's ever been printed. So it doesn't even exist. So all that money you owe back on loans, well, where is that money coming from? It's a shell game. But my kids need a number in a bank account so they can play the shell game with everybody else. So they can have all their mom's money.